Richard and Jean Young, From China to America During World War II, a Family Chronicle. My mom and dad left China for the United States in 1945. They didn't expect to stay long, or maybe they did. They left their homeland just 35 years after the fall of the Qing dynasty and the founding of the Republic of China. During the 8th year of its war with Japan, and a dozen years into the internal rebellion by the Chinese Communist Party against the ruling Nationalist Party. Trading this tumultuous republic for another one across the sea compelled them and many others. My parents' story combines both extraordinary and common elements, and I would like to share their story with you. Chinese students in the first half of the 20th century would pursue advanced degrees at universities across the United States. This was a common path for thousands of China's best, including my parents. None of them made it without an amazing combination of hard work, scholastic achievement, connections with the right people, persistence, and luck. I tell this story to honor the incredible journeys of these Chinese students who would become our parents, their lives in China, their various paths to the United States, and their ability to survive and thrive here. My dad, Richard Yang, Yang Fuxian, electrical engineer, university professor, restaurant owner, real estate agent, and golfer, created opportunities for himself and made personal connections that were crucial to his journey to the United States. My mom, Jean Yang, Shen Jiaqin, the organizer, the school leader, volleyball star, and church founder. Her dedication to family and friends became a key to creating enduring communities of mutual support. This is an extremely condensed synopsis of Chinese American history. In general, America's relationship with China has always been a mixture of opportunity, cheap labor, racism, repression, sympathy, idealism, legal restrictions, and a clash of ideologies and politics within and between both countries. You can pause here and read through these key moments in Chinese and American history. Millions of Chinese were forced to flee their homes and cities when the Japanese military invaded China, starting in 1937. In Simon Winchester's book, Bomb, Book, and Compass, he states, quote, colleges in the cities of Shanghai, Wuhan, Nanjing, and Guangzhou had been selected as early targets for Japanese bombing. Nankai University in Tianjin had been repeatedly bombed, and its ruins were set ablaze with kerosene. The main university in Beijing had been initially stripped by looters, and its academic buildings were converted into brothels, bars, and stables for use of the troops, unquote. As the Japanese army took over more and more of China, many major Chinese universities based in Beijing and other coastal cities relocated their faculty, students, books, and equipment, first south and west to Changsha, a journey of almost 1,000 miles, and then to Kunming, another 800 miles west. To put this into perspective, imagine moving Northwestern University from Chicago to Dallas, Texas, then from Dallas to Tucson, Arizona, during a war. Mom and Dad met in a physics class at Wuhan University, which had also relocated inland to Chongqing. There were 4 students, 2 women from Shanghai who paired up immediately, leaving Mom and Dad to join up as lab partners. Their physics professor assigned them an experiment: take a portable radio transmitter and walk for a mile, then call the professor back at the lab. Repeat until contact was lost. The radio had a range of perhaps 5 miles. The 2 of them were walking and carrying their radio, probably 2 miles an hour. Once they lost contact, they walked back to campus. So this walk, my parents' first date, lasted somewhere around 5 to 6 hours, lugging a radio across the countryside in China. A perfect date for an engineer. Dad's expertise in electronics qualified him for work at Tsinghua University in Kunming with the U.S. Army Air Corps, the Flying Tigers, repairing the radios and weather balloon transmitters used for weather prediction for cargo and fighter bomber flight planning. He became good friends with many of the logistics and flight planning staff, including a U.S. Army Air Corps officer, Captain Fleming. Sometime in 1944, my father was reading one of his favorite magazines, The Proceedings of the Institute of Radio Engineers. He came across an article by a Charles Pear from the Washington Institute of Technology. Something in the article impressed Dad enough to write Mr. Pear a letter, which included a request to enroll in the Washington Institute to continue his studies for an advanced degree. A few months later, Dad received a letter from Mr. Pear. The Washington Institute of Technology was an engineering company. Unfortunately, Mr. Pear could not provide Dad with more schooling, but he did something much more important. He offered Dad a job. Suddenly, Dad had his golden ticket out of China. The Flying Tigers held a big going-away party for Dad after his job offer from the United States. But months went by with no response about his visa application. One day, as Dad was riding his bicycle down the road in Kunming, his friend, Captain Fleming, spotted him and asked why he was still there. Dad explained the situation. Captain Fleming said, "Get in the Jeep," and they drove to the U.S. consulate office, where Fleming vouched for my dad. Dad got his visa the next day. Somewhere during this time, Dad asked Mom to join him to go to America. Probably the closest an engineer can get to a marriage proposal. The first leg of Mom and Dad's trip is documented by these airplane ticket receipts from China National Aviation Corporation for travel on March 9, 1945. Here's a rough sketch of Dad's journey from Kunming to Washington, D.C. His travel at sea from Mumbai to Los Angeles was on a U.S. Navy troop ship, the Admiral W.S. Benson. Meanwhile, Mom, her sister, and other women bound for the United States had to wait in Mumbai until the authorities would allow women to travel. In July, they were able to book passage on the MS Gripsum, an ocean liner of Swedish registry chartered by the U.S. State Department as an exchange and repatriation ship. They left India on July 3rd, sailing through the Suez Canal, and arrived in New Jersey 1 month later. This map shows the approximate path of their 19,000-mile journey. This article from the August 3rd, 1945 edition of the New York Times describes the Gripsum's arrival in Jersey City. Among over 1,500 passengers are, quote, 174 Chinese students, unquote. Mom reunited with Dad and my aunt with her husband. These young adults, all in their 20s, born into China, suffering through constant turmoil for over a century, escaping Japanese aggression and invasion, navigating by plane, train, and steamship over thousands of miles, each arrived with a suitcase, a few $100s, and the possibility of a better future in America. But they, along with thousands of other Chinese students here, were impacted by the constantly evolving and fraught relationship between the United States and Communist China, a mixture of unspoken prejudice and public propaganda, with courageous support from U.S. lawmakers, hard choices, limited opportunities, as well as some blessings along the way. These are the forces that forged the Chinese American community of our parents. How did they survive and figure out how to live here in America? How did the geopolitics of the 1950s impact their lives? What kind of support did they establish for their families and their Chinese friends? My next family chronicle will tell of the stops and starts, setbacks and successes of my parents' lives here in the United States. Thank you for joining me on this journey.